Good morning, everyone. Sorry about the delay. We had some technical problems. So today we're going to be talking about financial exploitation. And Latoya Hall is going to be our presenter. She is part of the Wayne State University Institute of Gerontology, and she serves as a research assistant and program director at the Institute. She has committed her career in social work to developing asset building, financial stability programs, and for underserved communities. So this presentation today will address older adults as targets and some of the most common types of exploitations. So with that, I will turn this over to Latoya and we'll get started.
So, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today for talking about older adults and financial exploitation. As Dave said, my name is Latoya Hall. Excuse me. I'm from the Wayne State University Institute of Gerontology, and I am the director of a program called the SAFE program. SAFE stands for Successful Aging Through Financial Empowerment. And so with SAFE, we actually do a few things that I'm going to talk about. We educate members of the community and individuals who work with older adults on financial exploitation and its dynamics, what to do, how to protect yourself, how to spot it, and what to do if you ever are a victim. We also offer a free prevention program for financial exploitation. Right now, we are in the piloting stage, so it's kind of like a research study right now where we're piloting a financial exploitation prevention program. If you'd like to be part of that, I will share my contact information later in the session so that you can reach out and we can help you to be a part of our prevention program. And then we offer one-on-one services to victims of financial exploitation. So if you've been the victim of a financial exploitation, scam, identity theft, financial exploitation by trusted others, we offer a no-cost one-on-one service where we'll actually help you to put the pieces back together, get the reporting done, contact the financial institutions, and see what types of things we can do to help you to be able to recover financially. So I start this off with talking about financial exploitation. It's a term that we hear a lot and it's used a lot, but I guess the thing is what exactly is financial exploitation? And so financial exploitation, it's a form of elder abuse actually, and it involves the illegal or improper use of a vulnerable older adult's funds or property for another person's advantage. Approximately 5 to 11% of older adults are victims of financial exploitation each year, but only around 1 in 25 cases are reported to the authorities. So that number, 5 to 11%, those numbers may be on the low end. We actually suspect there's more, but a lot of people don't report it, which is one of our goals with our program to make sure that we are reporting and really getting a good picture of what's going on with our older adult population and being financially exploited. So we want to talk about, financial exploitation. One thing we know is that older adults are targets of financial exploitation. Now, older adults are not exploited the most. We look at some other groups, they may have higher rates of financial exploitation overall, but older adults lose more money. They are targets because they lose large amounts of money to exploitation. These are just some of the reasons that we find that older adults are targeted. A lot of times there's regular income coming into that home. So older adult usually has something pretty regularly coming in. It may not be a lot, it may even be Social Security only, but at least once a month, there's a Social Security or a pension or something coming into that home. Older adults have usually accumulated some assets. When you think about it, we're talking to a retirees group. So, you worked when you were younger, you saved some money for your retirement. You also may have had, some assets that you were putting to the side, may have your home paid off and things that you were building to secure your retirement. People know, I'm so sorry, I don't know what's going on today, but people know that those funds are there and those accumulated assets are there within the population of individuals 65 and older, and they are after those assets. A lot of times, older adults, sometimes they have reduced financial management abilities, which may be due to cognitive or functional health, just where they can't cognitively do the things that they used to. They don't think about things the same way. They don't have the processing speed and things that they used to have with information. And sometimes that makes them have reduced financial management abilities, or physically, they really can't do things like get up and go to the bank or things like that, and may make them have some reduced abilities. Older adults are unlikely to report being victimized. Sometimes they are ashamed, afraid. Sometimes they don't want to report because they don't want anyone knowing that it's happened. Sometimes we run across older adults who are um, afraid to report because they think that their family is going to swoop in and take their financial autonomy or their financial freedom from them if they were to report. And so a lot of times we get our older adults not reporting being victimized. And sometimes our older adults may have lower levels of social support. This is really true of older adults who live in standalone homes. I'm a big advocate of retirement communities, and I know we buy these beautiful homes when we're young and we want to stay in them and live in them, but sometimes, people, we need that extra support in our older age, not a nursing home and not a care facility, but a retirement community where we're surrounded by other people that that are in our age group, and we're surrounded by people who understand kind of like what we need and the services. um so those are just some of the reasons that older adults may be more targeted. These are some of the effects of financial exploitation that we see in the older adult population. So sometimes there's like a loss of trust in other people as a result of being going through something like this and being exploited. You see a lot of older adults, they really don't trust anyone. They don't feel secure. They have that loss of security. Oh, studies have shown that being a victim of exploitation a lot of time negatively impacts physical, cognitive, and mental health. A lot of older adults I talked about being like ashamed, but they have feelings of fear, guilt that they could let something like this happen to them, angry, they begin to doubt themselves more, they're more remorseful, worthlessness. You see a whole surge of emotions. Um, Sometimes people can become financially destitute. As I mentioned, older adults lose large amounts of money to financial exploitation. In some cases, their life savings. I've seen people who have lost everything and had to live on Social Security only because they lost it all due to being exploited. There's no ability to like go back to work and replace the money that they lost. Someone in their 20s, 30s, even 40s, maybe 50s, if they lose 20, $30,000, there's time relatively to kind of make some of that money back, if not all of it. When you're dealing with someone in their 70s, 80s, they're not going back to work to make that money. So they become reliant on government safety net programs. They aren't able to provide for long-term care needs because some of the money that they were going to use to that is lost. And sometimes we even see people lose their home or their residences, depending on what type of exploitation it was. So we really have to be careful. This is really an important topic that we want, just to get the word out about and make sure that people are protecting themselves and making sure it's not happening to them. So there are different types of financial exploitation. And when I say financial exploitation, a lot of people automatically go to, well, it's the friends and family members, or it's the scammers and the thieves, and it's all of them. So FE by trusted others, that's what we call financial exploitation by friends and family members. And it has some really interesting statistics around it. We found with a study done in 1999 that probably needs to be updated, found about 60% of the financial exploitation they were seeing at that time was being perpetuated by family members, okay? Siblings and adult children in this dynamic, when it's trusted others, they are the perpetrators most often. People victimized by family members on average have 4 times as much money stolen from them, which makes sense because usually people victimized by family members are victimized by family members with large amounts of access to them, and they have access to still a lot more money. And then 87.5% of financial abuse that's committed by trusted others, family, friends, or acquaintances, is not reported, versus only 33% of what's perpetuated by strangers. So, a lot of times when it's friends and family members, they don't report. And the closer that family member is, so say that family member is like an adult child versus a niece or a nephew, that 87.5% is even higher when it's like a child of an older adult who commits the exploitation. So this is just some of the ways that financial exploitation by trusted other looks that we found. Um, sometimes it's a typical abuse of trust. So a person uses their relationship with the older adult to get them to make financial decisions from which they benefit. Example of that would be convincing the older adult to maybe turn over the title of their home, um, to convincing the older adult to turn over the title of their home to them. The older adult trusts them. They go to them like something, well, you should put me on the house. And if you put me on the house, I'll be able to do this, 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 and that. They don't want to be on the house to do things for the older adult. They want to be on the house to be able to exploit that person. And they use that trust that the person has in them. Financial entitlement. This is the one that people probably see the most. Some people don't even realize that this is exploitation, the people doing it and the people who it's happening to. An individual feels entitled to using the older adult's money and resources for themselves. An example of this, and I know we've all seen this before, is someone living in an older adult's home and not contributing to any expenses. And it's not because they can't. So it's not like, okay, you're on hard times, come stay with me until you get on your feet. Um, a very real situation that I've seen with this was this lady, she was a nurse at a local hospital, and she had gotten a new home through Habitat for Humanity. She moved her mom and grandma in, and she let them use their Social Security checks to pay the mortgage and all of the bills. And she took her nice little nursing check and took trips to Puerto Rico and bought new cars and kept her daughter in the nicest fashion. And she, just depended on mom and grandma to pay all the bills. And she was very entitled to that because they had always done it. She didn't see anything wrong with it. So financial entitlement is definitely one that occurs a lot. And then coercion. This is when an individual pressures an older adult into a financial decision to which they did not originally want to agree. This could look something like withholding care until an adult makes them a co-owner on a bank account. Um, Interesting. I've seen this the latest thing. It was like withholding the grandchildren. Like you can't see your grandchildren. They knew that, the older lady loved her grandchildren, and the daughter wouldn't let them see them until she helped her get a car. Um, but these are just some of the ways that we see financial exploitation by trusted other occur. The next one, I do want to talk about scams. This was in 2020. It's a little dated, and I need to go to the new one. I think they just released a new report. But these weren't the 10 most common scams for older adults in 2020. These were the 10 most popular scams, the 10 most costly scams for older adults in 2020. And at the top of that list is romance scams. And we all know what was happening in 2020, right? The pandemic. And so with these romance scams, it looks like someone befriends an older adult and poses as a love interest, sometimes online. I've seen a few that didn't happen online. but they pose, and then they get the older adult to do things for them financially or give them things financially. I've even seen people being used as money mules through these, where someone told them, they're in a relationship, they were going to buy a condo down in Florida and move there and live together, and they're happily ever after. He sent her $80,000, and then she calls and says, someone else is going to send you $40,000 for my part of the money that they owe me. You take the money and then forward it to me. And then what he did was implicate himself in the scam, because he accepted funds that he didn't keep. He just transferred them to the scammer. But he thought that he was in a relationship with this person and they were using this money to buy a home. Imposter scams, people posing as government entities. I think a very common one that everyone's heard of is the IRS scam. You really want to watch out for people calling you saying that they're from the government or with the government or with some organization, because let's see, number 4 is imposter businesses. So, you know, I tell people the most common way of initial contact for people over the 60 is by the telephone. With some other groups, scammers contact them more like through social media and email, but for older adults, it's usually that telephone, and they're calling and they're acting like, a government entity or someone, the court system, a business, and saying that you owe some money, there's a warrant for your arrest or anything. And they're asking you for information and money to take care of this debt or whatever it need be that you need to take care of. Something that I tell people is, you probably want to, and this will help with most of these, don't answer phone calls that you don't recognize the number. The most common way that they make the initial point of contact with older adults is over the phone. And these people, they call and call and call until you bite one of their scams. And they call as different people. There's usually a group of scammers. And so they'll have different people call you. They'll call from different angles. Today it might be you owe the IRS. A week later, you owe DTE or the energy company. So, just really watch out for answering calls you don't know and then responding to calls over the phone. So say someone calls you and they say that they're calling from your bank, right? And that there's a problem with their account or you owe money. You don't want to do anything. If you've answered that phone and you think there's a problem with your bank, you don't want to do anything. Get off that phone as quick as possible and probably go get your bank card or your bank statement and call the number there and say, hey, I just got a call. Is there a problem with my account? Do not trust incoming phone calls, and especially incoming phone calls claiming to be from government entities or businesses. A lot of government entities do not call, but even for the ones that do, even if it's a legitimate call, you always want to protect yourself. Better to be safe than sorry. You don't want to, pay someone some money only to find out it wasn't them. It'd be better to say, I don't trust this, and check it out fully and find out it is them and pay the money than to, give some money away to a scammer. Number 3 is prizes, sweepstakes, and lotteries. We see this one a lot. I don't know if it's still number 3, but someone calling saying that you won a cash prize. Really watch out for that. Something that that I always tell people, and it always gets me, is people will be like, well, they called and said that I won this prize or whatever, and I'll ask, like, did you enter a contest? And people will say no. The main thing you want to remember is if you didn't enter a contest, chances are like you didn't win one. And then as well, you shouldn't have to pay money to collect a prize. So if someone's saying that you won $60,000 and it's $3,000 in fees and taxes, why can't you just send me 57,000 and call it even? Like, never pay money up front to collect prize money. That's gonna, be the biggest thing with these prize scams. Like, did you enter a contest? And then if you have to pay money up front. Another thing that I've seen is You've won a cruise, and all you need to do to lock in your cabin is give us a $5 deposit. We can take it by credit or debit, and then the person gives them their credit or debit card numbers, and then they have your financial information and they're able to access your account. So, and they wipe the account clean. So really watch out for that one. Five, investment scams. Really watch out with investments and who you're working with. Make sure that you're working with trusted advisors for investments. Um, I don't say much about cryptocurrency because I don't know a lot about it. What I do know is that I've had a lot of people recently who got scammed through cryptocurrency scams. Really watch out for investing. Make sure you understand what you're investing in. Make sure you understand all aspects of that investment. And make sure you're doing your due diligence, your homework, like looking up people's licenses for advising and, looking at the SEC Securities Exchange to make sure that these are viable opportunities for investments. Computer tech support scams. Sometimes we'll get like a screen where they want us to, you've entered an illegal room or your screen will blank out and someone will come on and want you to give them money. Watch out for that. I always say turn the computer off and turn it back on. Sometimes that's the best way to fix it. Don't give people money you don't know. I don't care what's going on. Someone calls you, pops up on your computer or anything, and it's just someone that you don't know or someone calling you out of the blue. Please do not give people money. There is almost no way to retrieve that money once you give it away. Once you get that money away, it's going to be gone. And they're going to be somewhere out in Lisbon somewhere or somewhere spending your money. And, it's no way to get it back. Something that I do know is a lot of these are large scam rings, and some of them even have human trafficking victims working them. And their job is to just sit there at a desk all day and call and try to scam people. And they're not even in this country. So the police or the, American authorities don't really have any jurisdiction to go and get these people. And once you send them money, there's no way to get it back. Number seven was timeshare shares. Then number eight, I do want to look at number eight more closely, imposter with friends or family. So most of us have heard of the grandparent scam when someone, calls an older adult and poses as a grandchild and say they're in trouble, they're in jail or they need some medical attention and they want the older adult to, send money to a lawyer or a friend or someone to help to get them out of this situation. And the older adult, will go ahead and send that money. Just really watch out for that. I know we all love our grandchildren and want to help them, but take a step back and call someone and find out what's going on. A lot of times they'll say, don't tell anyone or don't tell mom or dad. I don't want them to get mad. If you want my money, I'm telling mom or dad. I'm going to have to call someone and verify it's you. I had one lady to say, well, I just called my grandson and he answered the phone. Always verify, even if you think you're sending money to a family member or friend in need, always verify, okay? Then nine, online shopping. Make sure you know where you're shopping. I'm not saying anything's wrong with online shopping. I do a ton of online shopping, but I use reputable retailers. Make sure that you are using reputable retailers. You are shopping on secure, private internet connections. So don't go and do your online shopping at the library on a public internet connection, right? And make sure you're checking the names in the browser to make sure that you're on the company's website that you think you are on. And then just at number 10 came in timeshare resales. I think that was it was 2020. I think that was more of a sign of the times. Like a lot of people weren't traveling and everything due to COVID. And a lot of people had like timeshares and stuff that they didn't see using in the foreseeable future and were trying to get rid of them. And scammers capitalized on that and act like they could sell those for a small amount or a large amount. And people got caught up in paying someone to sell a timeshare who really didn't have any authority to sell anything. Um, these are just some red flags that you may be about to become a victim of a scam. A request to be paid by gift cards or wire transfers. A lot of scammers will ask you to pay them this way because they know that that once you send money this way or cash, there's really no way to get that money back. Emails asking you to send money. I mentioned the phone call, but sometimes they'll do emails. I once got an email from a colleague that she was stranded somewhere out of the country and needed $400 to replace her passport. I deleted the email because I knew it was a scam. And I walk into an event the next day and she's sitting in the front of the audience. And I'm doing this talk here. So I say, hey, you were just sending me emails yesterday because you were somewhere out of the country. Um, People requesting that you keep conversations secret from other people. So secrecy is a big part of this scamming. They don't want you to tell anyone because if you tell someone, the chances are that person's going to be like, well, that doesn't sound right. Let's take a minute and really look at this and go through. And it may set you off to the fact that you are about to be scammed. Um, Incoming calls asking for personal information. A lot of times I'll get the someone who will say, well, I didn't give them any money, but they given them their name, date of birth, social security number, address, all types of personal information that they can use to commit identity theft or other crimes. People that claim they need banking details to process payments. Never share your banking information with anyone over the phone, especially if it's kind of like an incoming call or incoming request. When you initiate contact, you know who you called or you know who you reached out to. When someone's calling you or initiating contact with you, you don't always know that. And people can mask phone numbers and email addresses and all types of things these days. Watch out for calls with international phone numbers, especially if they're from countries where you don't know anyone. I once got a call from, I want to say Germany, Munich, somewhere in the middle of the night. I don't know anyone in Germany. So I knew it was someone calling probably to try to scam me out of some money. Request for you to send or receive money. Remember, we talked about the guy who sent money and then received payment for someone else. A request for you to handle payment for other people too. That's a huge red flag. Someone pushing you for urgent action, who's calling for urgency. It's kind of like that hurry up and buy tactic that they want you to act before you can stop and think about it. So always stop and think about things like before you do them and think, does this make sense? And when someone's pushing you to move too fast, no, that is a tactic to be able to take advantage of you before you can really get a hold on what's going on with this situation. Someone asking you to deposit a check and send them a portion, that's a huge red flag. And so a lot of times those checks are fake. It's a fake check scam. So what happens is when you receive a check, especially if you've been like I've been with Bank of America for 15 years, right? If I take Bank of America a check, they're probably going to clear it tomorrow and let me start getting money from that check. So they send you a check and then you go and cash that check. On your end, it clears in 1 to 3 days at the bank, right? So they say here, I'm going to send you this check. Do me a favor. It's for 1,500. Cash it. If you would cash it for me, I'll let you keep 500 and you just send me back 1,000, right? And so what they'll do is they you cash the check, you send them back 1,000 because it clears 1 to 3 days on your end. But for the bank, it takes about 2 weeks for it to clear, for them to find out if it's fake. And then once the bank finds out that that check is fake, they go and deduct $1,500 total from your account. Whether you use any of that money or not, they're going to take that full 1,500 because that's what they gave you. And so you're going to be in the hole, whatever you sent them plus whatever you spent. Um, know that anytime someone says investment is a guaranteed success, just walk away, they're lying. No investment is a guaranteed success. If something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. So, just really watch out for that. Then we talk a little bit about identity theft because I do want people to know about identity theft, even though it doesn't necessarily fit the definition of financial exploitation. It does occur under financial exploitation. A lot of times, sometimes trusted others will, get assumed identity. I had one case where a son who was a junior, assumed his father's identity, and it really worked out well for them because they had the same exact name, and he just swapped out his dad's social security number for his with all of his information, and he got a $300,000 home, a car, and all of these things from his father. But then I've also had people who have given scammers too much information and been victims of identity theft by strangers. So, I mean, it can happen. That's when someone uses your personal information, such as your social security number, to open credit and other accounts, right? There are four things that people really need for identity theft. Like the other stuff they can find online, they can make up, they can do multiple things. But these are the four things that they absolutely need to be correct to commit identity theft: your name, your social security number, your mother's maiden name, and your date of birth. Now, some of those are kind of like easy to get. And I tell people this impresses to me that you need to protect your social security number at all costs. That is a number that you definitely don't want to share unless you absolutely have to. And make sure that you know why you are sharing that number. These are just some of the warning signs that you may have some identity theft. If you have accounts and you begin to see unexplained withdrawals, um, someone may have used your identity to get into those accounts. Your bills stop arriving. Um, Sometimes people will, if they get into your identity and they get into certain accounts, credit cards and things, they'll reroute the bill because they know as long as you don't see that bill, they can continue to take advantage of you with identity theft because it's not going to flag you to something's wrong. People begin to call you about debts that you don't recognize, invalid debts that mean there may be some things on your credit report that aren't yours. Um, Unfamiliar accounts on credit report. And if someone sends you a notice that your information was compromised in a data breach, which we're all getting a ton of these days, it seems, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have been a victim of identity theft, but it does mean that you could be a victim of identity theft and you need to be extra careful and monitor everything because identity theft could definitely occur because someone has your information. These are just ways that identity thieves obtain your information. Skimming. So this usually happens when you use your debit card, bank card, credit card somewhere, and you put it in a machine or you swipe it. That's why things like, I know a lot of people don't like newer technology, but that's why things like tap from your phone and tap to pay are good because when you swipe that card, sometimes they have skimmers there that reads your card information. And while it sends it to the point of sale to make your transaction, it can also send it to a scammer, right? And so they'll have all of your information and be able to get into your account. So you really want to be careful, kind of like about swiping your card and where you're swiping it. I tell people frequently, if you pay at the pump, you want to be careful about that. I'm not saying you can't pay at the pump. I like to pay at the pump too. But you want to try to use the pump that's as closest to the attendant window as possible. If that pump isn't open, I'll usually just go inside because a lot of times people will put skimmers on the pumps that are farthest away that no one can see. And then with skimming, kind of like those kind of like standalone ATMs or those places where you might, like if there's a like an ATM like inside a store in the back or something, just really want to be careful about where you're using that card. Phishing. So usually that's when you give them the information with phishing, and a lot of people don't think about that. I mentioned earlier that people will be like, I didn't give them money, but they gave them a lot of information. A lot of times these people will get you on the phone just to get information. They're not trying to get money or other things. They're trying to get information that they're going to be able to commit identity theft with later on down the line. So that's why I say don't answer the phone like if you don't recognize the number. If you do answer the phone, be sure you limit how much you're sharing. You really want to be careful and limit what you're sharing with people. Theft of wallets and purses, that's the way people can get your information. I always say be careful what you carry on you in your wallet and purse. Mailbox theft, there's so many things coming through the mail. Door slots and locked mailboxes are ideal if you can. Dumpster diving, be careful what you're throwing away. If you can destroy things with personal information on them, that is the best way to do it. Computer identity theft, if you're disposing of a computer, really be careful of how you're disposing. Make sure you have the system wiped. And then be careful about giving people like remote access. So, we talked about like computer scams, but sometimes it'll pop up, we can fix your computer, but you have to let us on. And those people are going through all of your information on the computer to get information to use for identity theft. I have a few tips for you all for staying safe. We're going to take some questions in a little while because I want to make sure I answer any questions. And I know we're only on for an hour. But don't be afraid to say no. If something sounds too good to be true, or something you're not comfortable with, or something that you don't want to do, don't be afraid to tell people no. Or, I got to look more into this to get off the phone. Don't be rushed. Don't let people rush you. Ask people that you know and trust, friends, family members, neighbors, for their opinion on things. When something sounds like something that might be too good to be true, or something that you don't think you should do, or so even something that you're thinking about, ask for people's opinions that you know or trust. When in doubt, don't give it out. So, really refrain from giving out information to people, especially over the phone, or if you're in doubt about whether you should. If there's any doubt of whether you should be sharing this information, you probably shouldn't be sharing it. I'm going to say that. Never send sensitive information in email. Email is not a secured point of communication. It's usually not secured unless you work for an organization that pays for secure email, but like your Gmail and stuff like that, those aren't secured sources of sharing communication. And so you never want to be sending like personal sensitive information. Don't give out personal information over the phone unless you initiate the call. We talked about that. Shred all documents with personal information before you dispose of them. Don't leave mail in your mailbox overnight. If you can, consider getting a locked mailbox. Lock up important documents if you can. Safe deposit box are good. Don't carry more identification than necessary, because if someone steals your purse or wallet, they have everything that they need to be able to commit identity theft. Monitor your financial accounts frequently. I run into a lot of people who don't do this. Um, if you are comfortable with online banking, I would say monitor frequently that way, but at least you should be opening up your statements from your bank and credit card once a month and finding out what you're being charged for. Request a free copy of your credit report annually. This is going to be the best way to protect yourself from identity theft. Making sure you know what's on your credit report and what accounts are open with your information. I already talked about not letting people rush you. Always check cooling off periods and contracts, and make sure there is a cooling off period. I can remember being young and entering into a contract for a car and not really knowing what a cooling off period was, and figuring out I got taken advantage of and trying to take it back the next day and couldn't. So you always want to think about, look for that, ask them, how long do I have to change my mind? How long is the cooling off period? Make sure you're doing your research when you're getting offers, especially like investment offers and things like that. Make sure you're doing your thorough research. And if you have someone who you work with, like an advisor or even a trusted, friend or colleague or child who, does it, please listen to them. I've had people will come to me and, they have a son who's an investment advisor, and he told them that it was a bad idea and they didn't listen. And then when they were taken advantage of, they came, but it's almost like I wish you would have listened to him beforehand. So, if an investment offer seems too good to be true, contact the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission, to check it out. If you're dealing with contractors, so I didn't talk about contractors, but this is huge because we all know about contractor fraud, and it can be terrible. Because you have a certain amount of money budgeted for a project, and then you spend some of it and you don't get what you need, and sometimes your house is in shambles because someone comes and started something and doesn't finish. Contractor fraud can be so stressful. You want to make sure you research contractors, licenses, and everything thoroughly. I always say never pay up front. If you can, split it up into 3 payments. I'm going to give you, a third of the money before, for materials. If you buy your own materials, I'm not giving you anything up front. Maybe a third when you get halfway through, and then once you finish the job, I'll give you the rest. But I'm never going to pay you in full before you finish. And then if you can, hire contractors by referral. If you're looking for a new bathroom and some your friend at church got a new bathroom a few years ago, you may want to say, "Hey, who did your bathroom? Can I get that referral?" I think using referrals is one of the best ways to kind of like protect yourself and kind of like know what a person's track record is. Look up these people, use licensed contractors for one, and then look up these people on sites like the Better Business Bureau and things and see if people have complaints out against them, because contractor fraud can be so stressful. Um, and those are tips for staying safe online. I want to get to this because this is what we do, because I want everyone to know that if you are taken advantage of, we are here to support you through working through the process. Now, I do not have a, magic whip to strike and get your money back, but I can help you with certain things like, recovering financially and emotionally after being victimized, helping you with all the reporting, and if there is anything that we can uncover, making sure that we uncover it. Um, Educating older adults and the people who care for them about scamming and identity theft techniques and practices, which we're doing today. We do these presentations for free. So if you have church groups or other groups of older adults that you think would benefit from a presentation like this, we do offer these at no cost to the public. And then we offer one-on-one support and education to caregivers as well on finances and financial management. These are just some of the ways that we can help with the one-on-one support: filing police and consumer reports, contacting credit reporting agencies, disputing information on the credit report, contacting creditors, closing accounts, opening new ones, fraud alerts. And I generally tell people, like, anything that you need at that time that we can do within our bandwidth, we will do. And if it's something that's outside of our arena of knowledge, like we do have a lot of um, relationships with, attorneys, financial advisors, and people in the field that we could possibly refer out to or get some free, consultation from. This is my contact information. So you see the no cost up there. So our coaching services, advocacy services are no cost. Um, this is my phone and email. And if you ever need me, that's the way to reach me. I'm going to minimize that. Um, and then I guess we can open up for questions. We got about 13 minutes left. Dave, how do we do questions? Okay.
Here we are. Here's our first question.
Yes, I see. So I was reading this. This reminds me of the unlimited money TikTok challenge where people were writing and cashing bad checks for thousands of dollars. Does the FDIC provide protection against this for victims? I am not sure. From what I know about the FDIC protects your money if the bank should fail, or if there's the way that banks make money is they take our money that we put in the bank and then they invest it. The FDIC came about because during the Great Depression, when the stock market crashed, the banks lost everyone's money and they didn't have a way to replace it, right? So the FDIC is insurance for that. The FDIC, from what I understand, is not insurance for scams. I'm not familiar with the unlimited money challenge or how they would have gotten people's checking information to write the bad checks. Did people share the checking information with them? I would need more information on that to even know kind of like what would be the recourse for that, because I never came across it. I mostly work with older adults. Most of my clients are on TikTok, so I never had anyone come to me with this particular issue. But I know that the FDIC insures money in the case that the banks fail, not for, people getting caught up in scams or fraud. What about annuities? Most seem too good to be true. I am not an advisor. I can't like advise on annuities. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. If it's something that you're interested in, if you have a trusted advisor, I would say that that will be the person to go to and go through what your financial goals are, what your plans are, what your investment options would be, and kind of like pay attention to their advice. A lot of things are too good to be true, and a lot of people use very legitimate and standard investment vehicles to take advantage of people. And so, if you're thinking about like an annuity or purchasing annuity, you definitely want to talk to someone who's knowledgeable and someone you can trust. If you don't have anyone, we do have a relationship with the Pro Bono Financial Planning Association for the state of Michigan. They give great financial planning advice on things like this. I could connect you with a pro bono financial advisor to ask questions to who is more versed in annuities than myself. Um, my contact information was on the screen, but I'm just going to say it again. Latoya Hall, give me a call at 313-664-2608. And, we can talk about it. And then if you want to be connected, I will be able to connect you. But I'm not an advisor, so I don't really have like information on annuities. The only thing I can say if something sounds too good to be true, it usually is, and it may not be something that you want to, buy on. Because with annuities, there are a lot of things to think about, even like the terms. Like if you're 80 years old, do you really want to buy a 30-year annuity? Like, are you going to be able to cash in on that? Is it something that's going to benefit you? There's so many things you have to think about with those annuities. United Healthcare notified me that all of my personal data was stolen back in February of 2024. How can I protect myself when they have all of it? So, um, you want to, so this is what I meant. It seems like most of us are in data breaches this year. And that's what I mean, in the past few years. And that's what it was, a data breach. Everything is online. You want to read all the communication that they sent you and see what exactly that they had access to. Usually when it's a healthcare company that has a data breach, they have access to your healthcare information and your health insurance information, and they may be able to charge things in that way. But you want to find out, like through reading the information that they sent you, what they actually have access to, and then you just want to monitor those accounts. That's the best thing that I can think of, is to make sure that you're monitoring anything that they have access to. So with healthcare, it's usually kind of like your insurance information and things like that. So you want to, be looking at your explanation of benefits and things like that, just to make sure that you aren't being charged for something that someone else is using. If they have access to your social security number, you want to be monitoring your credit reports and monitoring your credit. But the best way in data breaches is to monitor. We've all been I think most of us, I can't say all, but most of us, I know I have been the victim of several within the past few years. And it's all about monitoring, making sure you're protected. And if something comes up, making sure you address it as soon as possible, because there's really not a lot you can do. I mean, you can put a fraud alert on your credit report, you can freeze your credit, but in the case of a healthcare company, that may not even be what was breached, what information that they have, but it should be in the letter that they sent you what information was breached. Like I got one from Beaumont, and it just said that they had kind of like our phone number and address. Many problems with fraud purchases on credit cards. Any way to reduce this problem? Um, I don't know if you're saying that this is something that's personally happening to you. Um, I would say watch where you're using your cards. It sounds like you may be getting scammed, or you may be, I mean, sometimes we'll use our cards like online and things to buy things. The good thing about it, if it's a credit card, a lot of times credit card companies are really good about reversing the charges, and it's not something that you paid up front out of your bank account. If it's something that's happening to you personally, I would suggest reaching out to me, because I mean, that's kind of like general. More detail would give me an idea of what is happening and what you could do to reduce the problem. So again, maybe give me a call, and then we can kind of like go over what's going on and see if we can narrow down to where the issue is coming from, if it's something that's personally happening to you.
Someone asked for to
Hmm.
redisplay your information, so you
Great. Thank you.
leave this up there for a minute, and I'll see if
Hmm.
any other questions are coming in.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, text email. Oh, that's okay. Give me a second. I got to copy this. Oops. Okay. So hopefully that's enough time for folks to write it all down. Boy, nothing's worked. My mouse is giving me grief today. Okay. So here's the next question that just came in.
How does one handle give charity calls, text, emails? They are persistent and overly demanding. The best way to give to a charity: by check or question, question, question. So I would say stop answering the calls with numbers that are registered in your phone. Again, like, they're going to keep calling, whether you give them money or not. If you're answering, they're going to keep calling. So you want to, the only way to cut down on that is stop answering. You'll notice once you stop answering, you will stop being inundated with calls. They're going to send texts and emails. If you can block, addresses, but they'll just send them from new ones. But the more you don't respond, they're gonna fall off. And by you saying they're persistent and overly demanding, I know you're kind of like responding, because that's when they keep coming, when they get a response. The best way to give to a charity is give to a local charity that you're engaged in or know. And if you want to give to a national charity, then United Way or something, a charity that you know and you can actually look up, a charity that you're involved with and know about. And then by check or what else, I'm not sure. It just depends on the charity. But I'd say the best way to give is give to charities that you're familiar with, and that you know and that you have experience with, not just random charities reaching out to you for money.
We got one more here.
How is freezing all credit files helpful? So freezing your credit is helpful because if someone has like your social security number and your other information where they could open new credit in your name, once you freeze your credit, what you tell the credit bureaus or creditors is don't extend any. They can't even access. So you're telling them don't extend any credit in my name because I can't even access. So you would have to physically unfreeze your credit before a credit account could be opened in your name, which blocks an identity thief or someone from being able to open new credit accounts in your name if they should have your information. So that's why people usually freeze their credit.
I've got another one here. Give me a
Hmm.
second to get it. Oh, I don't know. My mouse is just doing weird things. Oh, I think, like you said, I think I needed to shut my computer down and start cleaning
Yeah.
this morning, and I didn't do that.
Yeah,
Every
that's what I did before I got on, and that's why it took
day.
me a while with connectivity issues because it was like updating and cleaning and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, that's the worst.
What about putting a fraud alert on all credit agencies? So the fraud alert is is the cousin of the freeze. So while a fraud alert doesn't freeze your credit, a fraud alert just tells them um, if someone applies for credit using my information, contact me at this phone number, this email. I think they'll ask for a phone number or email that you want to be contacted at. So you'll get a contact if someone were to try to open a new account in your name. You get that contact and you know that, you be alerted to someone is trying to use your information to open an auto loan or a credit card or whatever. So that's kind of like how a fraud alert works.
I think that was the
Okay.
last question. So
Thank
we're
you. Thank you
right
for
at
having
12.
me.
Thank you very much, Latoya. I think this is
Great.
an excellent. We got comments about people appreciating the presentation. We will be putting this video up on ncro.org, and I'm going to try and get a copy of the slides from Latoya, and we'll put a PDF of that up there also, so you'll have access to it. If there was something specific you were looking for, it'll be there. So thank you very, very much, Latoya. Excellent job.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.